Hello guys, happy Saturday, happy weekend, it feels like fall today. I have my door open and it feels very much like fall. I wanted to come on here today and impromptu, I've been doing a lot of like impromptu lives because I was thinking a little bit about weight loss, and I was having a conversation this morning with a friend of mine at the gym. And we were talking about body composition and goals and weight loss, and I see this a lot in practice and I see this a lot in life, and I wanted to share with you guys some of the top things that people struggle with that actually hurt their goals and hurt their body in terms of their desires to change how they look. So we're going to go through a couple of the top things that can be kind of sabotaging behaviors or things that are false. Really think of it like mistakes that I find people do when it comes to fitness or weight loss. Now, this doesn't have to be fitness. Let's take that off the table, but just lifestyle and feeling good and feeling optimal in your body. And one of my friends today at the gym she was saying that she didn't eat enough. She was like, I don't think I ate enough before today's workout. And I was like, oh, well, what did you actually eat? And I think it was like half of a banana. And I said, that's probably why you don't feel good or strong during the workout. And if you start to play with how you eat before you exercise, or this is any time of day, you actually can hone in on really specifically how you feel. Like my workout today, for example, also felt like I didn't eat enough, although I did eat a lot. I have a pre-workout that I love to use, and it's my staple classic meal. It's the perfect amount of food. It's the perfect ingredients. It's like the perfect everything. So I love it when I'm actually working out. But for whatever reason today, I felt like my energy crashed in the middle of the workout. I felt really tired. I felt not strong at all with weights that I normally can do. So I thought about, it got me kind of going down the rabbit hole of eating and how sensitive we are to food and how sensitive we are to insulin and how our body is so affected from an energy standpoint by what we do and what we eat. So we'll talk a little bit about common mistakes. One of the largest mistakes that I see here, I'll share with you guys. Let me just, why is this like this? One of the common mistakes that I find that people do that is hurting them is they're really good during the day, right? Like during the day, it's like, I feel really good. I'm not really that hungry. I am fine to maybe have like a breakfast and then maybe like a light lunch, or maybe skip breakfast. A lot of people do intermittent fasting. So during the middle and the early part of the day, things feel really good. You're fine, right? You're good, you're busy, you're distracted, you're working. Maybe you don't need as much food. But what happens is if you're trying to watch what you're eating, by 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, your body will do a scan. It'll do a scan. So it'll basically say, what did we eat today? Did we get enough protein, enough carbs, enough fats? It kind of looks back at the day and reviews the day and says, how did we do? And oftentimes, if we didn't do a good job, we start to get hungry at night, and here comes the binge eating. Here comes the cakes and the cookies. And, there's a lot of hormonal fluctuations that actually happen at night. So our insulin typically is a little bit quiet. It often should be quieter. But if we haven't eaten enough, it actually can get a little louder. And so what happens for women is, this is where they go wrong, is all day long they're good, and then 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night comes, they sit down for dinner, and they can't stop eating after dinner. They're like, I already ate dinner, and then I wanted a piece of chocolate, and then I also went back up to the cabinet for whatever, a snack, something that you're looking for. And part of that has to do with front loading some of the nutrients. And so we live in a culture, and we live in this really broken mindset when it comes to how to physically lose weight, and the mindset of restriction. People often think the only way to lose weight is to restrict what I eat and to drop my calories. No, that is not true. That is not true. I feel like I talk about this all the time. If you're like watching this video and thinking she always says this, it's because it's the truth that restriction is not the answer all the time. And there's a lot of other factors that actually can cause issues with composition. And so that's a really common one, is if you're skipping those meals during the day because you feel not hungry, when you get to the end of the day, we actually go primitive. And what I mean by that is that willpower fails 100% of the time when we go primitive, or when a physiologic desire isn't being met. So hunger, right? That's a physiologic desire that we need to honor and respect. And as much as you might say, I don't need to eat, and you might try to willpower yourself and say, I'm a really strong person, I don't need to eat. You have to eat. It's part of life. It's part of the life cycle, right? The sun comes up, the sun goes down, the tide rises, the tide drops. You have to eat. And so what women often do is they push that. Men too, but I see this more with women, is they don't eat, and then they get to the dinner, they're binging, they're starving, they're overindulging because you've gone primitive. And your willpower, it doesn't matter how strong of a person you are, it doesn't matter what your intention was for the day, you're dropping offline. So that's a number one thing I find, and the best strategy that I can give you guys to overcome this is to eat every 3 hours. So even if you're intermittent fasting, let's say your first meal is at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, that's fine. You can still intermittent fast. I'm not saying that you don't have to do that way of eating. You can still intermittent fast, but when you break the fast from that point forward, every 2 to 3 hours, something should come in to help balance your blood sugar. Blood sugar is directly correlated to anxiety and mood. And so if you're saying, I feel a little anxious, right? We talk about that term hangry, and it's kind of a cute term. Like, I like the term, it's cute, but it's actually your body's responding to how you feel, and you're emotionally feeling a different way. So you're moody, you're irritable, you're cranky. Why? Because of glucose. Now, blood sugar, it lives in a very short window when you're fasting. So typically it's about 65 units, maybe 60 if it's low, to about 100, 120 if you're fasting. And it's a tight range. It's not like 0 to 2,000. So purposefully, the body needs to keep that window. We need to keep it in a tight range. We can't go way beyond the parameters of, over spiking our glucose because we just ate like a binged meal, or missing a bunch of meals. When you kind of go outside that normal glucose window, problems will arise with other hormones. So the best thing I could say is, if you're like, I'm struggling, I know I'm binging at night, I feel like I do so good during the day. Women tell me this all the time. I do so good during the day, and then I come home, and at night, everything's out the window. Now, think of it like this. Let's just pretend that, well, first of all, let's just say that you could break out of this. Can you break out of this? Yes. The way out is eating every 2 to 3 hours. That's the best thing you can do, is protein. Are you eating enough protein? Most women are not. They're undernourishing their protein consumption. So please be sure to have protein. It could be vegan sources of protein, which are not complete, but still they're good for you. Or it could be animal sources of protein. It could be either version of protein, but protein is the most satiating and the most filling of the macronutrients. Fat provides the most calorie. I have to block this person. I could just tell how this person's going to be. There's someone on here that's just, hi, I'm from India. Where are you from? Blah, 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 blah. Shh. No. You're distracting everybody. You're distracting me too. Sometimes I don't like these chats because I feel like, gosh, you just get so distracted, especially if you have not attention issues, but like when people are typing and you're trying to talk, you're kind of distracted to look at that stuff. So we'll answer questions here in just a moment, but block that person. I don't have space for that in my life. Like, I just don't. So another thing that you want to be mindful of is protein per each meal. Now, in terms of calorie, fat is the most satiating per energy. 449 is the equation. So carbohydrates provide 4 calories of energy. Fat provides 9, protein provides 4. So I would say normally, yes, fat is the most satiating, but if you're not used to using fat and you're not adapted to using fat, it's not going to provide you the energy that you're looking for in the short duration. There's a little bit of an adaptation process that has to happen when people do something like keto. You can't just go into it. It's like the body has to get used to burning fat. So protein is your friend. Ladies, please do not be afraid of protein. You will not overdo your protein. The renal threshold is about 30 grams of protein per meal. Usually above 30 grams, it's kind of wasted. So meals that are 30 is like a good range, like 30 meals. You can get this from protein powders, protein bars, protein shakes, ideally from real food, right? Chicken meatballs, turkey meatballs, anything from the ocean, salmon, scallops, oysters, clams, grilled calamari. All that stuff is going to be really high protein. So that's going to be your best friend. Every 2 to 3 hours you're going to eat. Why? So that you don't walk into dinner and you don't walk into dinner saying, I'm starving and I'm binging, right? Because that will happen is if you're not front loading the protein, here comes dinner, your willpower's dropped, the sun goes down, the body's a little bit relaxed, and problems arise. Another common thing is if you are using one of those like Fitbits or the Apple Watches or one of those trackers, please be mindful that the output in terms of energy is not right. So a lot of people say, oh my gosh, my Fitbit told me that I burned 700 calories today. You did not burn 700 calories today. I can tell you that for sure. You did not burn that. Are they helpful to track some form of movement? Yes. I know a lot of people with the iPhones, they want to close their rings, right? Like they're like, oh, I closed my rings. Good. That's a great reminder of movement and getting up. That's really helpful, but you aren't burning that amount of calorie. And so let me share with you why. Probably 9 out of 10 people have some form of a broken metabolism. They have an underlying thyroid problem. They have some form of colitis or Crohn's disease. They have some form of digestive issue. They have some form of malabsorption in their gut. They have some form of cortisol imbalance, which is a metabolic dysfunction. So the amount of calories that it thinks we're actually burning is not correct because the apps don't take into consideration your metabolic state. So even for people that track macros and like MyFitnessPal or Carb Manager, they're tracking everything, right? They're putting in, okay, my carbohydrates today were 175 grams. My protein was 120. My fat was 55. They're tracking. And then they're saying, well, according to my app that I burned X amount of calories. And this is my maintenance, right? The app asks you what's your level of movement. Are you sedentary? It's going off of a really general equation that's very cookie cutter. And the equation doesn't take into consideration actual problems. So it's kind of like, in theory, that's how it would work with these equation calculators, but that's not actually the way it really, really works because the apps or the carb managers and MyFitnessPal, they don't know what your state of health is. They don't know if you're not fully digesting your food. They don't know if you have thyroid issues. They don't know if you're dealing with a hormonal problem. They don't know if your progesterone's low or you have high androgens. They don't know if you're dealing with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which changes how your body processes carbohydrates and how you have a hormonal reaction. So buyer beware. I don't know why I'm so itchy right now. Like itching my face. Buyer beware with the apps because a lot of people are like, I burned 700 calories. And then what they do, you think you have 700 free calories to eat, right? Oh, I just burned it. I can go make up for that somewhere else. No. And I actually think that if you're doing it that way, like net for net, right? Burn 700, eat 700. You're going to find that you gain weight because the app is wrong. The watches are wrong. They're great as a general tool, right? Like the kind of concept is in theory good that like, oh, this is what I'm burning and I have to remember to move. And I love the apps that say breathe, but be mindful that it's not true. The apps are really not true. So little caution there. And another thing that I will share with you guys when it comes to mistakes that sometimes hurt people is when you're eating your food, especially for people that work out. So many women work out with no food in them. And my answer to this is like, I think it's okay to do that if you're doing cardio. I really think that like fasted cardio and working out with no calories are fine if you're doing cardio. If you're lifting, I'm praying for you because I don't think it's possible to lift and maximize your lifts. Is it possible to lift without calories? Yes. Are you going to maximize your lifts? Are you going to get PRs? Are you going to lift as heavy? Are you going to, push through that progressive overload? I don't think so. I think you're going to just kind of think you're fine. And sometimes we don't know how bad we feel until we feel good. And so when you do incorporate some food, you might be like, whoa, I really was undernourished in the workout. So nutrient timing is also really important, not just for people in the gym. Obviously, a lot of people that are in the gym, to be truthful, they don't really need to learn. They don't really need to go in depth with this because they kind of know this, to be honest. A lot of people in the fitness space, they know to eat pre and post workout. They know how important nutrient timing is. They know how they feel when they're eating meals that are good for them. They know how they feel with carbs before. They know how they feel with what types of carbs. They know that adding a little salt helps them. They know about these things, but it's other people that are kind of not in that space that have to worry about their nutrient timing as well. And, keeping all those calories for the later part of the day because you're missing throughout the day is a problem. because then you're going to end up being in a calorie deficit. And another thing I want to talk about, this came up a lot this week in the practice, is the yo-yo dieters, the people that are often Monday through Friday warriors. They're really great Monday through Friday. Now, let me preface this, that there's no one right way to do anything in life. Anything. There's no one right way. And I know that on these social media platforms, it can feel very confusing. So many people are telling us what to do. You should do this for your business. You should do that. You shouldn't do this. You should do this. It can be like burning out your nervous system with sensory information. So just be mindful. If it feels overwhelming, figure out what works for you. And maybe you could try something someone recommended, but if it doesn't resonate or work for your specific body, well, then maybe it needs to be recalibrated. Okay, but there's a couple times that people are yo-yoing. And so let's just pretend you have a budget, financial budget. So every week your budget is $2,000. That's what you get to spend. You can't spend more than $2,000 on everything, groceries and food and all the things in your life. And so Monday through Friday, you're really good, right? You're not spending a lot of money. You're spending like $100 a day, $200 a day on whatever, groceries and food and things that you like. And then all of a sudden, Saturday comes and you drop $3,000 on something. And then Sunday comes and you drop $1,000 on something. And you think that, oh, well, I did really good Monday through Friday, so shouldn't I have that allotment? No, you've overdone it. You can think of calories and kind of nutrition to that degree if it helps you to think about it like money, because is it true that Monday through Friday you were really good with your money and you were financially savvy and you weren't spending? Awesome. You'd have a good result there. You were under budget, right? Really good. But if Saturday and Sunday come and you blow through your budget and then some, it's going to offset you for the whole week. It almost negates what happened Monday through Friday. And a lot of people do that. They come in, on Monday morning, I see them and we talk about what they ate and they're like, but I don't understand. I eat really good Monday through Friday. What about Saturday and Sunday? And, like I said, there's no one right way. So I like balance. I'm a big proponent of balance. I think about weight loss and restriction and dieting as a seesaw, that if you're restricting, you're going to binge to the equal and opposite force. So the amount of restriction is going to equate to the amount of binging, right? That's just the way it works. So I'm a big proponent of moderation. I love moderation. I think that, have the birthday cake. I don't think we should live in this culture that demonizes or weaponizes being perfect 100% of the time, right? We're kind of letting go of that like hustle culture and do more and do it all and be perfect and never make a mistake, because that mindset's also a little bit sickening and it doesn't always yield results. So I like flexibility. I'm into flexibility, but what I will say is if you're going off the rocker with the nutrition on Saturdays and Sundays, AKA you're spending all your money, even though you're correct, Monday through Friday we're good, you're still in a surplus at the end of the week, and that will hurt you negatively. So you guys may think about equating sometimes the nutrients and the food consumption as money. A lot of times when I share that analogy, people say that makes sense. Oh, I didn't think of it that way, that yeah, I'm good Monday through Friday, and then all of a sudden Saturday and Sunday comes and I thought I'd have flexibility to offset it, but then I'm blowing through everything and overindulging. That makes sense, right? So be mindful with those things. Another thing too is like little cheaty foods. And what I mean by cheaty foods is basically coffee creamers and sweeteners and sugar and oils and condiments and ketchups and the barbecue sauce and the dressings, right? A lot of these things actually can add up to calories and also add additional macros and carbohydrates to your week. So be mindful that there could be a secret hidden amount. For example, let's just say that you're having a lot of coffee creamer and it's Monday through Sunday and you're doing a lot of that, and then you're adding a lot more oils or a lot more sugar into things that you're eating and not being mindful of it. Well, that stuff does add up. The way to think about that when it comes to money, right? Because the money analogy really helps people, is imagine that $100 bill that you had for the weekend and $5 at Starbucks and $10 here and then $25 at Target. It goes so quickly, even though it's small baby amounts, right? 5, 10, 20, $30, $50. It's small amounts, but it actually adds up. So when it comes to, if you're saying, I don't know why I'm not maybe seeing all the progress I'm looking for, well, check in with yourself. Did I get enough nutrients? Am I skipping meals? Am I eating every 2 to 3 hours? Did I get enough fluid? Am I maybe over consuming some of these secret sources of additional nutrients that are coming in my day? Those are all other things that could be affecting you that add up to the weekly total of what you're consuming. And those things will affect your composition. I don't really care so much about the number. I don't care about the weight per se, right? It's kind of arbitrary. What I do care about is health, wellness, and feeling confident and comfortable in your skin. So that's really my outcome, right? That the scale is a tool to help gauge. The body composition and the pictures are tools to help us gauge how you're doing with your lifestyle. And it also matters with how you feel in your body. I watched someone yesterday on YouTube. Somebody had sent me her YouTube. I love YouTube, by the way. I love it so much. I feel like I spend so much of my time on YouTube. I feel like it's such a great platform. There's so much stuff on YouTube. But she had sent me somebody that was basically doing these like challenges where they were consuming 10,000 calories a day or like 12,000 calories a day. And the person was asking my thoughts on doing this. I guess the woman that was doing these like a ton of calorie days was like dealing with some form of restrictive eating. And so if you are coming from the background of restrictive eating, which a lot of women I work with are, and there's no judgment or shame at all, I think that there's so much energy. If we look at why this affects women so much, is it's so layered and it's so deep. It's our social programming, it's our conditioning, it's all the messages that we've been subconsciously and consciously been believing and hearing about, that women should look a certain way and they should be a certain way and they should only exist to be this way, right? And women shouldn't hunger and they shouldn't thirst, and there's so many things that we can unpack, and that would be more of like an energetic, psychological kind of video. We could talk about that if you guys want my thoughts on that. But one of the things is that the level of restriction that you partake in is equal and opposite to the level of binging that you'll be enduring as well. So with this video, like I said, somebody had messaged me and was asking my thoughts. It was really sad to watch it because it was really obvious what was happening. This woman was hurting her hunger signals, and she was messing up her leptin and her ghrelin and her glycogen and glucagon and glucose and insulin and all of these hormones that funnel into the hypothalamus, things like orexin and all these just different satiety signaling systems that actually affect our hypothalamus, which is a master gland. She was playing with that biofeedback system in a negative way. So she was constantly under eating, and then that under eating will equal and equate to binges. It's an equal opposite. The higher you throw the ball, right? The higher you throw the ball, the more the ball has space to come down. The lower you throw the ball, the more the less the ball has space to come down. So that's exactly the same thing when it comes to restriction. And if you're struggling with restriction, I know a lot of women that are, and they think that, oh, well, I just did something really bad with my food, I'll make up for it the next day. You're in that cycle. Binge, restrict, binge, restrict, binge, restrict, binge, restrict. You have to break that cycle by not overcompensating for the thing that went wrong. You just get back on track the next day and you eat this. You don't offset the calories because, oh, I ate too much yesterday, so I'll eat a little bit less today. You do not do that in these patterns. Now, I know this video, we're talking a lot about food, so I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of eating, and I have a YouTube video about this, the psychology behind eating, because it's not about knowing what to eat. We live in a culture that we could get information, right? It's what drives people to eat a certain way. And the number one thing, the number one mood, the number one emotion, the number one energy, the number one feeling, whatever you want to describe it as, that leads to some form of disordered eating is anxiety. So people often use food as a tool to cope with anxiety. So if you're someone that struggles with anxiety and you're working with nutrition and you're trying to change your body composition and no one's talking to you about the anxiety piece of things, that's a problem, because anxiety is the precursor to acting and using food as the coping mechanism. So food is the coping mechanism. Calorie counting, macro counting, restricting, binging, over consuming, under consuming. That's just like the tangible outcome. outcome. The thing that led you to that outcome was a feeling, an emotion, and a perceived state of mind, which is anxiety. So we have to work with the anxiety, whether it's emotional anxiety, chemical anxiety, or physical anxiety. Emotional anxiety is basically unprocessed emotions. You haven't dealt with something that's in the nervous system and it's causing issues, right? Like a death, a divorce, a trauma, a relationship dying, a relationship blooming, a different phase in your life, getting married, like the death of the version of yourself, right? That's something to look at. And then also chemical issues. Well, we talked about one of the chemical issues that causes anxiety, and it's if you're skipping your meals. If you're doing some funky things with insulin, you'll have anxiety. So we want to look at chemical, physical, and emotional anxiety as the driving force of the food. If you're a patient of mine, you know this. We do this all the time. We talk about these things all the time in my practice because I want to be able to support you that it's not just food. People that work with eating disorders, and I've sat on a lot of eating disorders, like seminars and councils. I used to actually attend a couple different workshops around this topic, and they're not so popular nowadays because people aren't really doing a lot of in-person events. But the thing about it is that it's always emotionally driven. So if someone's just trying to work with your food and they're like, well, you've got a food problem, so we must work with your food, right? They're kind of missing the picture. Problems or manifestations of a problem are never where they're sourced from, right? Like joint pain, body pain, back pain. People might say, it's my body. It's my working out, right? It must be my body. My body hurts. It must be something I'm doing with my body. Not at all. It could be something internal. It could be a visceral somatic reflex. It could be an organ issue referring pain. It could be infections hiding in the body that are manifesting in the musculoskeletal system. So not all pain. He who seeks to treat pain is lost. That's my kind of motto. He who seeks to treat pain is lost. You're not treating pain. You're treating the manifestation of the pain, which is never coming from what you think it is. Kind of wild how that works. Anyways, I'm rambling. As always, I always say I'm going to make these videos short, and then I come on here and they're like 25, 35-minute videos. Gosh, I just talk too much. Any questions, guys? Any questions about the stuff we're talking about? Hi, Brendan. Hello, Sandra. Hi, Sarah. Hello, hello. If you have questions, as per usual, send me a message. If you thought this was helpful, give it a thumbs up. And also, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube. And I hope that you guys found some value to this little video. And maybe you'll take away that you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours. You need to not skip your meals. You need to nourish your body. You need to be really, really inspired to maintain your insulin levels and your blood sugar. You need to not restrict. And we'll keep this conversation going when next time. So see you guys soon.